When you sell your house, do you get to take the refrigerator? What about the curtains or the TV mounts? These little details can create big confusion in a real estate transaction. So today, I'm going to break down what usually stays, what usually goes, and why the contract matters. Hey guys, my name is Amber Crum, and I'm a local Bristol, Tennessee and Bristol, Virginia realtor. I put a lot of focus on education in real estate, so it's really important to me that my clients understand every part of the transaction as we go. Today we're talking about what stays in a home sale. What items do you get to keep as the buyer, and what items does the seller get to keep? So we're going to talk about that and break it all down. I want to start by saying that every single state is different. So it's really important to understand the actual contract and rules of the state that you are in. So we're going to talk about Tennessee and Virginia today because those are the two states that I work in. So a general rule to start is that if something is attached to the home, it is usually going to stay. So if something is personal property and it is not actually attached to the home, it usually will go with the seller. So let's think about it this way. A light fixture is attached, so that will stay. A table lamp is not attached, so that will go with the seller. A built-in dishwasher is attached, so that will stay. A countertop coffee maker or a microwave that is sitting on the counter is personal property, so that will usually go. However, the contract is what controls the final answer, but this is a basic rule to kind of understand how most people think about it and how it works in most states. In Tennessee and Virginia, fixtures will usually stay. A fixture is an item that is physically attached to the property. So this would be something like a light fixture, a ceiling fan, built-in shelving, bathroom mirrors that are mounted, built-in appliances, blinds that are attached, curtain rods, door hardware, mounted cabinets, built-in microwaves, any kind of attached security equipment, mailbox, fencing, any kind of landscaping, and anything that is permanently attached to this home or land. So for example, if the seller has a chandelier and they love this chandelier in their dining room and they really want to take it with them, they want to make sure that their real estate agent and that the buyers coming to view the home understand this. And so that way when they go into the home, they can understand that the chandelier in the dining room does not convey and isn't staying with the sale. A lot of times it's really good to go ahead and have those removed before listing your home if you know that's the case, so that way there is no confusion. The next thing we're going to talk about would be appliances. So appliances can be a little bit tricky because this is where some people will get confused. Some appliances are built in and some are not. Like a dishwasher is typically considered an attached item and that will stay. A built-in microwave is also attached. But if you have a freestanding refrigerator or a freezer out in the garage or a washer and dryer, these might be treated differently depending upon the contract and depending upon how the realtor that is representing the buyers writes that in there. So if you are really wanting to keep the extra freezer in the garage, or you want to keep the refrigerator, or you want to keep an item that you're not sure of, make sure your realtor knows that. And when you are writing the contract, they want to put that in there. So if you're ever in question, I always feel like you need to put it in the contract and make it very clear. That's why we put things in writing. That's why the actual written offer is what's the most important when making these decisions. So if you see something in the home and it's a deal breaker if you don't keep the freezer in the garage, that needs to be written in the contract very specifically. So just keep that in mind as you're viewing homes. The next thing on our agenda today is curtains, rods, and blinds. These are all window treatments. This is another sort of confusion. Blinds that are attached in the window usually stay. Curtain rods will also usually stay, but the curtains themselves are usually personal property. So unless the buyer specifically says in the contract they want them, then those are going to go with the seller. So if you love the curtains, you love the curtain rods, or there are blinds, I would definitely write that into the contract, have your realtor do that to make sure you get to keep those. If you're a seller and these items are sentimental, you want to take the curtain rods, you want to take the curtains, make sure to tell your realtor that up front when you're listing the property, and make sure that they're letting all of the buyers and their agents know so that everything is clear and there's not any confusion. A good tip for sellers is that if there's something in your home that's really special to you, or that you know you definitely want to keep it, I would go ahead and remove it before you have any listing photos done and before your home is listed. Take the curtains down or swap out the mirror, because once a buyer sees it, they may think that they're going to get it and it could end up being a problem in the home sale. So that's where I come in as your realtor. I do my best to ensure that all the items my buyers want to keep are written in the contract, and that when we're selling a home and we're getting it up for sale, that I remind you to get all of these items out if there's something you want to keep. That's just the best practice. It's always really important to make sure things are very clear in the purchase and sale agreement. And that's where I come in as your realtor. I do my best to ensure that if you're my buyer and there's an item you want in the home, that we list that in the contract very specifically and in detail so that there is no confusion at all. So that way the sellers are very clear. And as a listing agent, I'm sure to be able to read over the contract very closely so we make sure that there's not anything listed in there that the seller wants to keep. So it's just really important to look through those details and to have a good realtor that'll do that for you, and that you look through them as well to just make sure there's not something written in there that you want to keep, because that would be very devastating to get all the way to closing day and the buyer back out because they didn't get to keep the mirror on the wall or because they didn't get to keep the Ring doorbell. So it's just really important to be clear, to be very precise, and to make sure if there's something you want, write it down in the contract. The next thing we're going to talk about is TV mounts and wall mounted items. So TVs are personal property. Those are not going to stay, but TV mounts are attached to the wall. So this can be really confusing because the seller might think, well, that's my TV mount, I installed it. And the buyer might think, well, it's attached to the wall, so I get to keep it. So it's just confusion. We want to make sure things are not confusing and they're clear during your home sale. So this can be the same with mounted shelves, attached speakers, attached cabinets, security cameras, smart home devices, and anything that's wired or built in is normally going to stay with the home. So you want to make sure if you're selling your home, you tell the realtor exactly what you want to take with you, and that is recorded and in writing. And if you are buying the home, you want to make sure that if it is something you want to keep, like a security camera or a Ring doorbell or an extra refrigerator or an extra item or a wall mount for a TV, that is always written in the contract so that there is no confusion at all and everything is very clear. That's the best practice. As far as smart home devices, they've made this topic a little bit more complicated. We've kind of mentioned it previously, but think of things like the Ring doorbell, your smart thermostat, security cameras, smart locks, garage cameras, Wi-Fi enabled appliances. Some of these things are attached to the property, but some of them also have subscriptions or accounts and passwords and a lot of personal data that's actually connected to those. So if you're selling your home, you want to think ahead. Are you planning to leave the Ring doorbell? Do you want to take the cameras? What will the buyer need to be able to use this device once they buy your home? Do you need to reset it? So just think ahead and plan that out. There's really not a wrong or right answer as long as we're clear and both parties know what is being taken and what is kept at the home. And if something can't be transferred, that might be good to note as well so that the buyer knows that. It would be really weird to move in and have the seller still accessing all the Ring doorbell cameras. That might be a little bit awkward. So you want to make sure to just have all of that lined up. There's not a right or wrong answer. It just depends on what you want and that it's made clear so that everyone understands. So if you're a buyer and you're looking for a home, to protect yourself, it's best to not assume. Don't assume that the refrigerator in the garage is staying. If you want something, ask for it in the offer, and this includes things like appliances, like refrigerator, washer and dryer, curtains, curtain rods or blinds, or the security system. Make sure you ask before you make your offer and make sure to write it in the offer. You need to know at the time that your realtor is making that offer. You can't come back later and decide that you want something. So it's really important to have everything ready before you make that offer. All right, guys, so the biggest takeaway is what stays and goes is not something you're going to leave to memory. If it's important to you, it needs to be talked about with your realtor and written in the contract when you're buying a home, because the contract is what actually matters. If you're a seller and you want to keep something, it needs to be very clearly excluded. And if the buyer is requesting something, it needs to be clearly included in your offer where everyone can understand exactly what item you're wanting. It's important to know what to expect so everyone's on the same page on closing day. Thanks for watching. I'm Amber Crum, your local realtor serving Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia, and all the surrounding areas. It's my job to help you understand the process of buying a home, to help you protect yourself and avoid anything that might be a stressful surprise. So if you're thinking about buying or selling in my area, I would love to help you make a plan for your next season of life. I have some links below for free guides. You can schedule a consult with me. And don't forget to like and subscribe and turn on your notifications so you can see me again. Talk to you soon.